Welcome to The Most Important Thing. I'm Danielle DeMarco Neufeld,
And I'm Greg Neufeld.
and together we're exploring how high-performing families can build culture at home.
Join us as we distill meaty topics into digestible, actionable experiments that we can all try with our families.
Because, after all, family is the most important thing. Ooh,
Trying something different.
that's right. Hi, Greg.
Hi, how are you, Danielle?
I'm great. It's a little stormy here today.
Stormy.
are
Rain
entering,
season.
Entering rain season. But it's a new week, and we've tried a few experiments, so let's report back.
Yeah, let's start from the top.
Okay, family meetings. We had one.
Mhm.
Check.
Check.
How'd it go?
It was good. I mean, not anything groundbreaking yet, but I think that everyone getting together, learning a little something, sharing a little something, and reflecting back was wonderful. And now I've got pretty high conviction that we can do this well. We could probably pick a better time slot, but I think
Yeah,
overall, I think we're gonna crush it.
feels doable.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, I definitely felt stressed and rushed on Sunday morning
Yeah.
before all of you went out to tennis. So let's try Sunday evening, I think we said.
Yeah.
As a potential. So next week we'll try Sunday evening.
I think so.
Okay. Personally, I loved the Saturday morning prep and voting.
Sure.
Laying the groundwork that we were going to have a meeting, that felt really good and easy breezy. Also, I did notice that Maverick and Hunter's voices were heard, both in the topics, in the why of the topics on Saturday, and in the actual meeting.
Yeah.
Jade, our middle daughter, I'd like to get her more involved. And so I made a point this morning of asking her what topics she might want to discuss next weekend. And I plan on doing that a couple times this week because she didn't have any ideas on the piece of paper that we wrote. And she didn't really participate that much.
No, she didn't.
That's okay.
Mhm.
The other thing I thought was interesting on Saturday was how many times people ended up not voting for something they actually suggested. Primarily me and you.
So what do we mean by voting?
Mm-hmm.
So anyone can bring a topic to the table, and then we vote on it for whether or not it goes into the meeting.
Sure. One was family learnings and the other was the problem to solve.
Right. So there were 2 votes, 2 rounds of voting.
Yes.
And what you're saying is there were persuasive arguments made where you ended up voting, I ended up voting for something that we didn't propose.
That's right.
Yep. It was great. And it was, by default, I think it was both times something that one of the children proposed.
That Hunter proposed. So the first one was monarch butterflies, and she really gave us a persuasive argument by talking specifically about what she was interested in with regards to monarch butterflies.
Yeah.
And then the second one was her choice of roles and responsibilities. She really suggested responsibilities. And honestly, just the fact that one of our kids wants to talk about responsibilities, that's going to swing my vote pretty easily, but also because it was a positive thing as opposed to the more critical items
Mhm.
that I had put on the list, like hitting, which is still a problem, but doesn't necessarily need to be tackled at our first family meeting.
Right. How do you think about YouTube as a medium for teaching both of those concepts?
I thought it
Monarch
was fine for
butterflies and-
Hunter.
Yeah.
She's 7. I think that we can do better for Jade and Maverick and be a bit more engaged.
Yeah.
Especially because each of the videos were like, one was 4 minutes, one was 7 minutes, and it loses them after a little while.
For sure.
So definitely some work to do on improving there. Spoiler alert, I found some pretty cool materials while researching today's topic that I think could be useful from the Family Dinner Project.
Okay.
So they have some conversation topics on their website that I think that we could use that are not videos, but are more like one-pagers to talk about.
Yeah. I mean, I think we got to break out the easel too.
Yes, we have an easel in our open living room kitchen for a reason.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, more on that.
Cool.
The other thing that I thought was a good innovation after the meeting was that we now have that same piece of paper that asks for ideas for next family meeting, but I've broken it into 2. So the bottom half is for those new ideas, but the top half is a reminder to explore the ideas we discussed over the weekend. So this past week, I wrote down a couple questions about rights and responsibilities, And then also, we are currently taking a tally of how many butterflies we spot this week.
Nice.
So just to keep the momentum going throughout
Yeah.
the week.
I wonder if we can involve other people in this too. So your parents are staying this week while we're going out of town for work. Let's get them involved, especially with Jade and Maverick around responsibilities and butterflies, because they can't read the paper, but your parents can.
The thing that I'm thinking about is, yes, my parents are coming to watch our children Wednesday through Saturday, which I'm very grateful for. And maybe we send them the rights and responsibilities video ahead of time.
Sure.
Just because, you know, one thing that's kind of funny that has been happening is that Hunter has made up a song about rights and responsibilities, a song and a dance about how they go together. And so it seems like something she's working with in her brain. So perhaps we can build on that momentum.
Yeah.
Cool. I also have a couple of ideas for our next family meeting that I read through researching other things this week, which is to consider rotating seating during family meetings to avoid a seat of power, quote unquote. I also think that you and I should actually sit down.
I agree. Well, that's part of today's discussion.
That's for sure. Then the second thing I think we should also consider is to think about what types of chairs we're sitting in during our family meeting and maybe move it to the couch. Because I read in a 2010 study from professors at MIT, Harvard, and Yale that people are more flexible, accommodating, and generous when seated on soft, cushioned chairs.
Okay.
So definitely something to consider for our meeting. Get them out of a hard, though beautiful, wooden chair.
Yep.
And all sit down together.
Sounds good.
So a lot of work to be done there. I'm grateful that we did it, but I would give us like a 4 out of 10 as far as my actual experience. I think there's a lot of room to grow in the family meeting.
Yeah. 4 out of 10 actual experience. But would I do it again? Absolutely.
Great. And then what about family stories? Have you shared any with the kids this week?
Yeah, you know, I made one up on the fly with Maverick, and it worked out pretty well. I think just following the principles of not being perfect, sharing and having him parrot it back was really great. And we got him to know something about my family. I told him about my grandmother and grandfather, the grandfather that I never met, and my grandmother, and how she went on living her life after he passed, and how she did really hard things that weren't comfortable for her, and showed him photos of them, and he loved it. He was so happy. And last night before bed, he said, your grandfather and your grandmother did hard things, and he's 3.5. So heck yeah.
That's great.
How
Very
about you?
cool. Great start. Ooh, I have a few things to contribute here.
Yeah.
Okay. So this morning I told the girls about a few of my birthday parties growing up. My birthday's Saturday, so it was kind of timely. And we laughed so much. We talked about the ridiculousness of my friends, the junk food that existed that they think is hilarious that we would ever eat things like, I showed them what a great American cookie cake looked like.
Oh, wow.
But I felt so close to them so quickly, which was really cool. And it really helped me have that vibe of we're all on the same footing. We're just human beings bumbling along. Because I was talking about when I was like 8, you know? And then a couple nights ago, we were playing a game and I mentioned what I mentioned on the podcast earlier about how I got rejected for the first half dozen jobs that I interviewed for and kind of went to the final rounds of before I ultimately got my job after college, which ended up being a wonderful opportunity. That one was a little bit of a mixed bag because after I explained, before I really could get to the meaning part, Hunter was like, oh no, that's awful, Mommy. I'm so sorry. And Jade started hugging me and was like, Mommy, it's okay. And I was like, no, wait, hold on. For me, this is like a really big life lesson around being patient and trusting the universe. But I don't really think that landed. Yeah. So I'll keep working on that one. But still, it was like super fun to selfishly reflect upon that stuff with 2 of my favorite people.
Oh, good.
Yeah. And then I just got off the phone with a relatively formal investment conversation with my father, as we do. But at the end, we had like 2 minutes left in our meeting, and I asked him about his jobs growing up. And I already knew some of them, so I asked him to fill in the gap. And before we knew it, we were talking about how he used to eat McDonald's at 10 p.m. and then go to sleep in no air conditioning by the sounds of the birds that were around and the crickets that acted like white noise. And it was just so fun to talk about the Bob Whites and the whippoorwills all night long.
Wow. That's really cool.
2 minutes. It took 2 minutes. And I think we both really left on a high note.
Did you share with him why you were asking that?
Yeah, he knew.
Okay.
He listened to the previous episode, or someone did.
Right.
And maybe my mom did and told him, but I said, I want to go to these 20 questions. I had to have some kind of entryway.
That's good. Well done.
Yes. And then finally, on this topic of shared stories, again, in my research for family meals, I saw another idea, which I love, which is called Family Memory 20 Questions. So the idea is that one person thinks of a memory that everyone participated in, and then you ask 20 questions to try to figure out which one it is.
Okay.
And I think it'll be really fun. And I heard that it's really fun, especially when you have one of the kids do it, to like hear the things that they actually are thinking about as memories from their perspective. So that one is definitely on my list to weave in over the next couple of days as I do.
That. I also came up with a trivia game that we can play on your birthday.
Yes.
That requires no question development ahead of time.
Meaning you don't have to ask me?
No. Well, yes. Meaning we don't have to ask you. We don't have to prep the questions. I think it should be fun.
That was another rabbit hole I went down, right? Around birthdays and what to do that's different, that doesn't involve eating a bunch of sugar or material gifts.
Just something other than food and a song.
Yes. And maybe to put a positive spin on it, not what it's not, but actually building upon the fact that I love games so much.
Yes. Yes, you do.
Cool.
Okay. All right.
Are we ready?
We are.
So let's jump in.
All right.
For our next topic, we are going to cover family meals. And now this is an interesting one for us personally, because it's a thing we admittedly have not prioritized. Actually, I would go so far as to say that we've had a bit of ego about how unnecessary this is.
Yes.
In fact, you specifically suggested this as our next topic so that we could, and I quote, debunk family dinner.
Yep.
So let's get really down to it here, Greg.
Mm-hmm.
When was the last time that we had a family meal together where we all sat down?
About 8 weeks ago, we were on vacation and we somehow ended up all having breakfast together around 7 a.m. And we looked around and we were like, we're eating a meal together.
Everybody loved it.
Everyone did love it.
We had a nice little oval table at the Airbnb and it just never happens.
Mm-hmm.
This is a gap in our family routine for sure.
Well, why is there a gap in our family routine?
Lots of reasons.
Mm-hmm.
One, our kids eat dinner at 3:15.
Yep.
Two, you only eat one meal a day.
Correct. 3.
We all eat different things and eat differently.
Correct. 4, there's no overlap in our meal schedules.
Right. 5, you and I don't sit down and share a meal together either. And we spend almost the whole day together every day between working out and working. But when was the last time you and I sat face to face and shared a meal? It's not our forte, guys. It's really not.
And honestly, I think that having a solid bedtime routine, having a solid reading routine with the kids, having intentional activities with them has been a great substitute in early childhood for the family meal, where we would always be up on our feet getting the kids something. And that's the main reason why we didn't want to do family meal, is because it's not really a peaceful moment when the kids always demand things. So we just staggered mealtime so that we don't overlap.
Yep. And I think there's work to do on all of that stuff. Creating a space that allows for a family meal, working on behaviors at mealtime. But I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. I want to focus on the most important thing.
Yep. So why are we ready to potentially change our tune here?
Because I dug into the research and it turns out that family meals are additive. So There's over 25 years of research that shows that regular family dinners support academic success, mental health, and physical health. And yet there has been this belief, at least in our home, that if you are doing other things like connecting, playing games together, setting healthy boundaries, etc., that family dinner isn't necessary. Well, while researching this topic, I found a few studies that contradict this convenient avoidant notion that we Neufelds have had. Womp womp. There are two studies, one in 2011 and one in 2015, each of which I linked in the show notes, that found that family meals are associated with improved psychosocial outcomes that remained significant even after controlling for factors like family connectedness. Further, family meals predicted enhanced family cohesion over time, indicating that there's actually a reciprocal relationship where family meals not only reflect, but also strengthen family bonds.
Right. So what you're saying is the research shows that even if you take away some of the anecdotal evidence that may refute this, like, oh, this family is already connected and therefore family meals here actually matter less. You're saying that the delta is great for any family that applies this.
For sure. Yes. And, at the outset, I was with you. Let's debunk family meals. Let's show that we don't actually have to do this as long as we break down family meals into connectedness and playing together and making sure that you do check-ins and things like that. But after spending some time with this significant body of research, I am convinced that it would be worth doing something.
Okay.
So let's get into it a little bit more. More recent research has explored the family meal even further and has found that frequency, typically 5 or more meals a week, seems to have benefits particularly around healthy eating and intake of food and vegetables. And the quality of family meals seems to have more relational benefits. So for our purposes today, I would like to focus on the relational benefits because while I think we could do a subsequent episode on healthy eating, we currently eat 0 meals a week together. So the idea of 5 seems pretty daunting. And honestly, if we were trying to unpack healthy eating, this would be a 4-hour episode.
Yeah.
Okay, so focusing on relational benefits. I was encouraged by something I heard from Dr. Ann Fischel of the Family Dinner Project on her podcast. She stated, I think if I had to pick, I would say to families, don't pay so much attention to checking off the box and, making sure you have 5 or more meals together per week. If you have one great, connected, engaging, fun meal a week that people look forward to and plan for and enjoy, that's great. So that's what I'm going to hold on to, Greg. And that is what I would like to suggest, is that we work towards one weekly fun family meal.
Okay.
Okay?
I can get on board with that.
Great. And so with that as a goal, what is the most important thing about family meals?
What is it?
Have them. But that's always my answer. So let's break it down a little bit further. I have another 3-ingredient recipe. First ingredient, same time, same place. Goes back to this idea of a predictable ritual to give kids a sense of security.
Yep.
2, all devices away. No phones, no TVs, no iPads. Boost eye contact, and it triples the amount of back and forth conversation.
Yeah, that actually might be the most important thing from a change in behavior perspective.
For sure. I think that the single most important thing I have done as a mom, this is not an overstatement, is keep my phone out of their bedrooms.
Yeah, you do a great job of that.
It's been a commitment that I have. And sometimes it means that I need you to write something down or give me your flashlight. But it has really helped me stay present in those magical hours. I'll call them magical. In the first hour that they wake up in the morning and the hour before they go to bed when we spend time in their rooms.
Yeah.
Okay, so same time, same place, all devices away. And then the third one is eat together, but don't make it about the food. So there is something calming and deeply ancestral about sharing a meal together. I think we can all resonate with that.
Yes.
It's a time to connect and allow the act of eating to relax us all. Also, there's a study that shows that when people share food, they come to solve conflicts more easily. Check that out.
Interesting.
Yeah. So eating sets the tone and should not be overlooked. That said, try not to nitpick at this time about what the kids are eating or aren't eating, and keep the focus on the conversation and time spent together.
Okay. Well, I'm sold.
Yay!
I know.
This was a tricky one for you. I mean, for
Yeah.
me to talk to you about.
I really wanted this to not be something that we had to do, simply because the way and time and quantity of food that I eat,
Yeah.
I think that I'm caught between the toddler years and the what I'll call the growing family years, and showing the flexibility and vulnerability to be a different person in these years is the work to be done for me.
Good notice.
Yeah.
I love that. And just to be clear, though, you have really figured out how to be an amazing caregiver when it comes to food to our family. So while you may not be eating with all of us, you are everyone's favorite chef.
For sure. And I so enjoy that feeling because it nourishes my soul to know that everybody is enjoying my food. There's just a lot of joy that comes with being the executive chef of the family. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, but it's a different feeling than sharing. It's giving to someone. It's almost an act of
Yes.
service.
Right.
As opposed to being in the thick of it.
Mm.
Right. And that is one of the goals that we have at the outset of this journey, which is to become more of a family unit and less of a kind of top down power over dynamic that we have with the kids.
Right.
It'll be a growth opportunity for me too. I don't sit down to eat.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about what we're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Greg, where did we come out? Now, I have to be honest, we had a very passionate conversation during our workout this morning about what might work for our family. So I'm sparing you a bit of how the sausage gets made. But we did come out with a good outcome, which is Fridays at 5 p.m.
Yeah.
That is when our nanny leaves for the weekend and when we transition from being individuals, getting through our very busy weekday schedules, to being family, connected at a slower pace that is more open, playful,
Yep.
adventurous.
It's the opening ceremony of the family weekend.
Yeah. And I think what this means, though, to be clear, 5 p.m. on Friday typically means head upstairs and start bedtime. So we're really expanding the day by 20 to 30 minutes to have this space together.
Mm-hmm.
And what we came up with is we're going to have dessert, which feels like an easier meal than any of the others.
Yeah. Why not?
Why not?
So this Friday at 5, we will.
No, next Friday at 5. This Friday at 5, we're going to be, so we're going to be in DC this week.
Mm-hmm.
But next Friday at 5, we will make a dessert.
Yep.
And where will we have it, Greg?
We will have it in the front yard or in the backyard.
Okay. Someplace where we will all sit down.
Yep.
Ideally on soft, comfortable chairs.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't want to get too excited because our idea of having family meeting on Sunday morning sounded so great and then it didn't really work out in execution so well. But I do really like this idea of opening ourselves up to the weekend vibe. I'm thinking about a recent episode of one of our favorite shows, Summer House, where Jesse Solomon hosts Shabbat dinner for his housemates. And he shared that in his house growing up on Friday nights, they always held Shabbat dinners. And his favorite part was how they used it as a time to reflect on their week and discuss things like, what are you hoping to carry into the next week? And what do you want to leave behind from this week? So cute, right?
Very.
And this is something that we heard when we were researching family meetings. But when we tried it out a little bit, Greg and I, just the two of us, it felt really amorphous,
Mm-hmm.
right? You in particular said, I don't even remember what I did an hour ago,
Yeah.
let alone over the week. But if we're trying to think of the family meeting as a space for learning and problem solving together, then this Friday dessert together can be more about how we talk about how the week as individuals went
Yeah.
and to catch up in that way.
The family meeting feels like the Monday morning sales meeting, and the family meal feels more like the Friday happy hour.
Friday happy hour. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really hope that this will help us shift the energy as we transition from the more high speed individual weekdays to the slower, open pace of family togetherness on the weekends.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Also, no devices. However, my AI pin will be here and we can record all the conversation and have some fun takeaways that may or may not be worth sharing.
Oh, that's great. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. Amazing. So we've covered family meetings, we've covered family stories, and now family meals. I think we're starting to weave some threads through all of these into broader themes. And I think the broader theme that shows up here is that togetherness and conversation in different formats should be remixed for different purposes. The reason why togetherness and conversation matters is because we are all living our own individual lives, and coming together as a family deliberately and intentionally is not something that happens organically. It is something that happens when you put purpose behind it. And this is why these three things matter. It's because we're being deliberate about them. And that time under tension, if you will, doing something that is either a skill or is having a conversation about something that we've been meaning to talk about, or just letting us see our children for what comes out in a happy space without devices, without distractions,
Where we're all on the same level,
where we're all on the same level, seated,
relaxed.
ideally on comfortable chairs.
Exactly. Comfortable chairs.
That's great.
Okay, great. So, family meal. Friday happy hour, dessert on the turf, Neufeld style.
Can't wait. But first, a couple days without the kids.
I love you, Goosey.
I love you, Goosey.